Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. Game week 8 is done, and we have 30 weeks left to go. How was game week 8 for you? Did you get 56 points or more? Because that was the weekly average this week. For an international break, I guess that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. But outside Haaland, it was a bit of a tough week, right? I'm sure the last people believing in Salah are now making those changes. For me, I got 64 points and I'm very bitter because I had Mukiele and he was third on my bench. He's 17 points just over there looking at me, and he could have been my best player after Haaland. We're very thankful for Haaland. Haaland did the business. He performed as expected. Liverpool lose the fourth game in a row, and now it's getting very scary because it's like, is it worth even having a Liverpool player? I know I've seen some teams and a lot of people have Van Dijk. Is it worth having a defender from Liverpool? I don't think so. Forest continue to disappoint. Newcastle continue to suck away from home. Burnley beat Leeds. Crystal Palace and Bournemouth played out a thriller, 3-3. I know we looked at 3-3 and we were like, oh, Semenyo must have gotten something. Nope. Well, he did get an assist. But it was El Krupi, who might be an interesting budget acquisition because Evan Nilsson is a bit unavailable for now. So he's having his opportunity and he got 2 goals and grabbed it by the horns. He grabbed his opportunity. So Bournemouth, as usual, seem to have a new guy all the time. Chelsea win 3-0. Joao Pedro does nothing. 5 games, 0 shots on goal. What are we going to do? Mateta does nothing last week. People remove him. Mateta has a hat-trick. What is it? Then Salah, Isak, Wirtz continue to do nothing. In fact, they say Harry Maguire has a combined total of 1, which is as much or as many as Isak, Wirtz, and Salah combined. Out of nowhere, Danny Welbeck comes up with 2 goals. Just as I was talking about strikers doing nothing, all of a sudden, all the strikers show up. Igor Thiago comes out again out of the woodwork, goals again. There's no new manager bounce for West Ham. Mr. Ange Postecoglou got sacked, and not only that, they've replaced him with Mr. Man with a hoarse voice, Sean Dyche. So I guess they'll be better defensively, but going forward, who knows what's going to happen now? It feels like they overcorrected from what Ange Postecoglou was. Spurs continue to be just wishy-washy. Richarlison does not start again, and with that, he is out of my team now. For all of us who still have Reinders, he gets hauled off at the 58th minute. Why? I could have used that extra clean sheet point. A lot of us then begin to believe in Caicedo, and then he's benched. But then South American players, we'd spoken about this. For those of us who still had gyokeres, he blanked while all the strikers are performing. There were 6 clean sheets this weekend, and that's not too bad. The highest scoring fixture was Crystal Palace 3, Bournemouth 3. And in this game, there were just 2 real things that happened. Mateta hat-trick and Krupi scored 2 goals. If you had Krupi, well done to you. You are the real alien. So I didn't know how to think about this game because I thought it would be competitive, and clearly it was. I kept my defenders, which ended up being fine because Gehi got the penalty that Mateta scored in the dying minutes. But outside that, it was not a good game for defense. Honestly, it seems like Munoz is the best defender to have from Crystal Palace. So, of course, when you hear 3-3, you know Mateta had the hat-trick and he definitely got the 3 bonus points. Krupi scored 2 goals and Christie had 1. Now, because of that, of course, you know Krupi had the 2nd bonus point. Munoz had 2 assists, which gave him a bonus point. Now, Munoz had 2 assists, Gehi had 1, Semenyo had an assist, and Tavernier had an assist for Bournemouth. Great game to watch. Krupi looks really good. And at 4.5, sneaky. Although their fixture's a bit tough next, but maybe somebody worth keeping an eye on depending on how long Evanilson is out. When it comes to the most disappointing match of the game week, it has to be Liverpool 1, Man United 2. Why? Because Liverpool have had a favourable record at Anfield against Manchester United for the longest time. And right off the bat, Manchester United scored, which then put everything on shaky ground. Ahmad had the assist from Bumo, who scored. Gakpo, goodness. He was definitely the most dangerous player on the Liverpool squad. He hit the post, I think, two or three times, and he scored the goal. He missed an open header. Honestly, on a different day, he could have finished this game with 4 goals. Salah doesn't look good. Kiesa is looking like a sneaky good buy. Oh, he had the assist for Gakpo's goal. Fernandes and Ahmad had the goals. The assists from Bomo and then Maguire's goal. Suddenly, Mr. Amorim's job is looking a bit safer. The pressure is easing. It's now, can he build on this momentum? This is 2 wins in a row. Sunderland wasn't impressive, but this one is. This one is. Their keeper also seems to be a bit solid. He could have considered 4. And he had nothing to do with the posts, really. So I don't know. But I guess that's just how luck is. Sometimes it works for you and sometimes it works against you. And he's looking impressive so far. Bruno got the 3 bonus points, Bumo got 2, and Maguire got 1. Another disappointing match, I guess, would be Brentford versus West Ham. Mainly because you'd think there'd be a manager bounce and you're waiting for it. But if you watch those highlights, Igor Thiago could have had 4 goals. And that is his fault. This was a 2-0 hammering. And West Ham look horrible. They look like Manchester United last season, where it doesn't seem to matter who's in charge. You just can't get anything out of them. I think Nuno has got a big job on his hands, and I don't know what he needs to do. They probably need to try and convince Moyes to come back. He seemed to be the one who was able to get anything out of these guys. And then honorable mentions for Spurs just being Spurs. I don't know what Thomas Frank is doing. He's decided that even if his team was winning when Richarlison started, that he's done with that version of his team. And now it's Dell up front. I don't get it. Spurs, I don't get. So let's look at the top performers this game week. In goal, Dubravka was a top performing goalkeeper with 9 points, followed by Roofs from Sunderland with 7. Raya, Kelleher, Donnarumma round up the top 5 with 6 points each. Defense was impressive this week. And right at the top is Mr. James, Reece James, 18 points. Mukiele, who was on my bench, so painful, 17 points. Walker, Achimpong, 14 points. And just in case you wanted a cheap defender, Achimpong is 3.9. 3.9. So Walker and Achimpong, 14 points. Gabriel, 12 points. O'Reilly, Maguire, and Hume, 11 points. Munoz and Ballard, 10 points. So if a player gets 10 or more, I just read all of them. So look at how impressive defense was. 6 clean sheets. Well done, guys. When it comes to midfield, wow, weak. Number 1 was Neto, who had 12. Betancourt was second with 12. Trossard and Ugochukwu had 10. Bomo and Palhinha tied for 5th with 9 points. When it comes to attackers, forward, Mateta led the top with 17. Then Welbeck and Haaland were tied with 13. Krupi was 4th with 12. And then in 5th, we have Voltemada and Thiago, who both had 8. So let's look at the stats. As mentioned a little earlier, Sean Dyche is now the new manager of Nottingham Forest. When he takes over on Sunday, it'll be the first time in Premier League history that a team has had 3 permanent managers in charge before Halloween. That's wild. Earlier, when I told you that the 2-0 victory of Brentford over West Ham was a hammering, just listen to this. Michael Kayode became the first Brentford player to create 6 chances from open play in a Premier League match whilst his 7 chances created was overall the joint most by an Italian since 2003-2004. That game was ridiculous. West Ham have lost 5 successive home games in the top flight for the second time in their history. Arsenal have conceded 3 goals in their opening 8 games. If they keep up this pace, they might just better or match Chelsea's record of conceding 15 goals in a season. Arsenal have scored 10 goals this season via set pieces. It is the earliest into a season that this has happened. 8 matches, 10 goals. Set piece specialists. Amorim is the only manager to win away from home at both Anfield and Etihad in the last 5 Premier League seasons. Not bad for a guy who's not doing well, huh? With his assist for the winning goal for Harry Maguire, Bruno has now recorded 52 assists for Manchester United in the Premier League. It's the 5th most for the club, only behind Ryan Giggs, Wayne Rooney, David Beckham, and Paul Scholes. Now, Ryan Giggs has 162, Rooney has 93, Beckham has 80, and Scholes has 55. So he'll do well to reach Beckham, but Scholes is probably the most realistic. Amorim is only the 3rd manager to win both of his first 2 Premier League away games at the reigning champions, after Manuel Pellegrini and Antonio Conte. So there might be a glimmer of hope. Liverpool have lost 4 consecutive games in all competitions for the first time since November 2014. Bumo's goal was scored in the 2nd minute, and this is only the 2nd time that there has been a goal within the opening 2 minutes of a Premier League game in this fixture between Man United and Liverpool. Nicky Butt last did it for Man United in 1995. Since the start of last season, Tottenham have dropped more points from winning positions at home in the Premier League, which is 19, than any other side. Thomas Frank has a big job. I don't know if you remember how Brentford was scoring very quick and early goals last season. Well, since the start of last season, sides managed by Thomas Frank have scored more Premier League goals in the opening 5 minutes of games, 6, 5 in Brentford and 1 in Tottenham, than any other manager. Arsenal have not faced a shot on target in consecutive Premier League games for the first time since November in their last title-winning season. Does this place Arsenal as favourites? The last time they did it, they went invincible. Let's see what happens. When Ange Postecoglou was sacked, he had spent 39 days in charge of Nottingham Forest. It's the shortest reign any Premier League manager has ever had. And it's a good thing they sacked him too, because the last time a manager saw his team score 1 goal in his first 5 games, it was Alan Shearer in 2009, and they got relegated. Since the start of 2023-24, no Premier League manager has seen their side concede more goals in the opening 10 minutes of the second half than Ange Postecoglou, which was 16. Caicedo did not start this game week that passed, and it was the first time since 2023, which ended a run of 65 consecutive starts for Caicedo. 6.3 million managers captained Haaland, which is more, 4.8 million more than those who captained his nearest rival, Salah. So it's safe to say that people, rightfully so, believe in Haaland and his capacity to score. And so this means that in his 8 outings so far, he has returned 8 or 7 points each week. He is officially Captain Obvious. Voltemade has now scored 4 goals in 5 outings, which makes him a great second striker to have. Joao Pedro has now blanked for his 4th game in a row, and it's also the 4th game in a row that he hasn't had a shot on target. In this game week, Senesi, Adams, Ndiaye, and Van Hecke got the most defensive contributions. Senesi got 20, Adams from Bournemouth got 17, Ndiaye from Everton got 17, Van Hecke got 16, along with Florentino, Luis from Burnley, and Pellinia from Tottenham. When it comes to the most players brought in, Voltemade is number 1 with 480,000 people bringing him in. Mateta, 305,000. Haaland, 272,000. Gabriel, 246,000. Saka, 210,000. When it comes to most players out, Salah, 388,000. Joao Pedro, 327,000. Gyokeres, 245,000. Reinders, 183,000. Richarlison, 175,000. For the 5th time in 8 game weeks, a defender is the top performing player of the game week. Congratulations, Reece James, 18 points. Haaland was the most selected player this game week, and he was also the most captained. Semenyo was the most vice-captained. The highest points this week was 138 points. The manager is called Zulutino FC, and they used their bench boost to great effect. In goal, they had Raya, 6 points. Gabriel, 12. Munoz, 10. Van Dijk, 3. Foden, 3. Saka, 7. Semenyo, 4. Gakpo, 7. Joao Pedro, 2. Voltemada, 8. Wow, he didn't even have Haaland. Mateta, captain, 34. Dubravka in bench, 9. Ndiaye, 4. Reece James, 18. O'Reilly, 11. That's 42 points on the bench. I got 56 or something. 64, but the bench, 4 players. That's wild. In our group, there was a tie for number 1. Sir Alan Muchangi, who got 103 points, and Sir Carlos Wenger, who got 103 points. Now, Alan Muchangi's team is Freezer FC. In goal, he had Pope, who gave him 2. Rodon gave him 1. Senesi gave him 2. Timber gave him 6. Gay gave him 4. Saka gave him 7. Bruno gave him 8. Sar gave him 2. Semenyo gave him 4. Gyokeres gave him 2. And Haaland gave him 26 as captain. Dubravka gave him 9. Mukiele, 17. Saka, 17. Igor Thiago, 8. Talk about a great use of your bench boost. 39 good points from the bench. Sir Carlos Wenger, on the other hand, did not use any gimmicks. Just straight 103 from his top 11. Raya, 6. Gabriel, 12. Munoz, 10. Walker, 14. Eze, 3. Mente, 2. Semenyo, 4. Reinders, 1. Mateta, 17. Voltemada, 8. And Haaland, 26. And that's how they got 103 points. And this is great because it shows you that there's more than one way to skin a cat. Well done, guys. That is a great fight. In 3rd place, Telvin Mudoga got 99 points. Number 4, Solo Kamau, 93 points. And rounding up the top 5, man behind the mask, Jeffrey Jeremy, 92 points. When it comes to the most transfers made, Mike's team, managed by Mike Mbogwa, made the most with 8. And no, it's not Don Clinton. Number 2 is a tie, Victor Nyabola, 8. Number 3, Gerald Juma, 6. Melvin Keter, 5. And number 5 is Santi Mark, Naim Ali, Bonaji, and Anthony Koila, all made 4 transfers. When it comes to highest change in team value, Mark DeMarcos FC added 1.2 million to the bank. Well done, that'll help your transfers. When it comes to overall rank riser, Mandem FC, Anton N, has jumped 2.3 million positions this game week. And in our league table, Sir Carlos Wenger jumped the most positions, jumping 48 positions. Well done to you. The team with the highest team value is Jan Muller, baby, whose team is valued at 103.1. When it comes to teams and not doing so well, the worst team in change value, the worst team value change belongs to Vic Nyadimo, whose team has dropped by 0.7. Pole. Ali Muddin dropped 1.5 million positions globally. Yikes. When it comes to disappointing transfer outcomes, Victor Nyabola lost 27 points from the transfers he made. Like he would have been better off doing nothing. Mike Mbogwa is this week's, team with the most pain. He had 33 points on his bench, and he had 65 points Mukiele, of course, got 17, and that is responsible for half. Dubravka had 9, Saka had 5, and King had 2. He's also the one who believed those stats for Salah always does well against Man United, and he had lost 28 points. Number 2 is Ramon Pauls, who got 29 points on the bench. Hamoudi, 27 points on the bench. Skyscraper, 25, along with Clinton Oko, 25 points on the bench. When it comes to dropping down our league table, MK dropped 41 places this week. Don't worry, you can improve next week. When it comes to the team with the lowest value, Tatiana Mislenovic, 98.5. Oof, that's going to make your transfers tough. With a capital T. Manager Mozart J, manager of Zete, has now gotten 7 game weeks with a row of having red arrows. Man, it's 7, but you can have 30 game weeks of green arrows, so don't lose hope. When it comes to green arrows, Amos Langat has been leading the way, along with Patrick Phillip, Solo Kamau, and Chris Masika and Teddy Mwalo. For 6 weeks in a row, they have been seeing green. Keep it up, guys. Gerald Juma, Team Somerville. So his team have the most goal scorers, with 7 goals scored by his team. When it comes to good transfer outcomes, Onyango Mandela had 41 points thanks to the transfers he made. Keep it up. There was a good use of a wild card. When it comes to captain choices, 138 of us chose Haaland. 21 of us chose Salah. 6 of us chose Semenyo. 4 of us chose Saka. 3 of us chose gyokeres. Another 3 chose joao Pedro. Another 2 chose Voltemada. For some reason, another 2 chose Wood. Another 2 chose Bruno. Ooh, and then 2 people chose Mateta. Well done. Another 2 chose Eze. Another 2 chose Palmer. And then Richarlison, Hudson-Odoi, Grealish, Gakpo, Van Dijk, Raul, Watkins, and Gabriel were each captained by one manager. Compared to previous weeks, it feels like there was a Haaland consensus captain. Great decision, guys. Let's keep going. At the top of our table, there has been a change. Mavagani Kihoro, friend of the podcast, number 1, 84 points, 538 points. And right behind him is Jeffrey Jeremy, who got 92 points, 535 points. Ron Chisaka, 79 points, 534 points. Alan Muchangi, 103 points, 520 points. Fama Champez, 519 points with 82 points this game week. Number 6, Mark Mutagi, Mark DeMarcos FC, 75 points, 514 points. Komsi Konsa, Mr. Leon Mortier, number 7 with 511 points. Los Pojo de Hermanos, Amos Langat, 510 points with 79 points. Anwar Midunga, 70 points, 506 points. And at number 10, it's a tie with Eric Maranga having 72 points and 506 points. Number 1 has 538 points and number 87 has 438. So that's where 100 points gap difference is. So don't lose hope if you're in between those two. You can still steal the top spot with a great game week. At the bottom, Don Clinton has 188 points, and because of his many transfers, number 2 from bottom has 299. So it's not even, well, it's more than 100 even. And then Eddie Olang, 315 points, 193 points. One Kimco, 5th from bottom, 322 points. 5th from bottom is Mozart J, 43 points, 323 points. Even for you guys, even if I look at your teams and it looks like some of you guys have given up, keep going. There's still a lot of time. Now, as we look towards the next game week, I know international break just finished. The game week has been over. Now we're having Champions League. So if you look at that turn of events, it just shows you that there's bound to be some rotation happening this game week. With who? I mean, Caicedo was benched. It could be anybody. So as you're approaching this game week, keep that in mind. And as much as you can, wait and see what the managers say. Now, the game week is going to start on Friday. So there'll be Europe, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, the Premier League will be back. And it'll be Leeds versus West Ham kicking us off. Both teams lost and they're coming off a poor showing. Leeds looked like they were playing almost Manchester City. They were just destroyed by Burnley. And West Ham were hammered. And so if things go the way they're going, I think Leeds will be favoured for this fixture. No, I don't know what he needs to do, but I've lost faith in that team after watching the Brentford game. They were just incapable of doing anything, and it also seems like he doesn't know how to get anything out of Bowen. And if you can't get anything out of Bowen with West Ham, then what are you doing? Their head-to-head data is a bit outdated, so I'm not going to use it. But the recent form favours Leeds. If you believe in Leeds, I would say your best choices are Calvert-Lewin, Stark, and maybe Aronson. And if you feel like you want a defender, you can choose Rodon or Goodmanson. And honestly, that wouldn't be a bad shout because, West Ham have been struggling to score. Now, of course, if you're on the other end and you want a West Ham player, it's tough, and I wouldn't encourage you to get into West Ham right now. But if you must, it's honestly Bowen, Paqueta, and Souček, because I wouldn't encourage anybody to have West Ham defenders at this point. Let's see how much time Mr. Santo is given, but those are the three I would suggest. On Saturday, we will see Chelsea take on Sunderland, and Chelsea play in the Champions League tonight, and depending on what happens, it will influence who's available. So as you're choosing your Chelsea players, wait and see who is available. In theory, Chelsea were really good last time out. Reece James was incredible. And I think they're favoured against Sunderland. Again, we don't know who will be available after this game. So if you can, hold on and wait and see. However, I would recommend Mr. Neto, Reece James, and in third place, Joao Pedro. On the other end, for some reason, Roofs is the top goalkeeper. And so just trust that and close your eyes. Mukiele scored 17 points, so why not? But of course, don't get two defenders for this game. If you're looking at them going forward, Xhaka is their best player, and then Isidore. But honestly, Saka, Mukiele, that's fine. Newcastle are at home versus Fulham. Newcastle will be at home, and this favours them. And right off the bat, I would go off with Voltemada, but I'm jumping up a bit. In their last 5 games, Newcastle have won 3 times and have lost twice. And in their most recent last 2 encounters, they were beaten twice by Fulham. I'm not sure if this means that Fulham have recently uncovered what they need to do to beat them, but they have been the recent better team. So even if Newcastle are at home, this could potentially be their bogey team. Having said that, Newcastle do play better at home, and Voltemada has been scoring in his last 4 or 5 games. He scored a really beautiful, cheeky goal the last game out against Brighton, and I believe he will score in this game. So Voltemada is the one I would recommend first, and then Gordon, and then Jacob Murphy. For Fulham, it's tricky because they're not exactly strong at the front right now, but they gave Arsenal a good run for their money. Raul Jimenez is back, and so I would say Raul Jimenez, Iwobi, and King. Fulham were beaten 1-0 by Arsenal, but that's just Arsenal, and that's fine. Arsenal are a stronger team. Newcastle were beaten by Brighton, and Newcastle tend to be a bit weak away from home, so that's also a bit understandable. So both teams will be looking to improve given the recent history, I'm going to favor Fulham in this one, even though I still do believe Voltemado will score. Manchester United will be taking on Brighton at home. They have been good over the last 2 fixtures, and there is reason to believe that they're on the up. However, in the last 4 encounters, they have been beaten by Brighton, and they've won 1, the 5th one. So that puts Brighton as heavy favourites for this encounter. And for that reason, I've brought Welbeck into my team. I believe he's going to score against his former team. I feel he's like one of those guys who just loves to do that type of thing. So I'm looking at him, and then Minte and Ruta to cause trouble. On the Man United end, Mbomo, Ahmad, and Fernandes. Those are the top 3 for me right now on the Manchester United end. And if you're a bit of a gambler, you can go on their defense, but I believe Brighton will give them trouble. Liverpool are off form, and so I don't want to discredit their win, but Liverpool have not beaten anybody in 4 attempts, so yeah, they did what was expected. Then let's see how they fare against better opposition. That's wild saying that, but facts, Brighton are in better recent form. Over the last 4 games, they haven't lost 4 in a row. They're a better team in form. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Brighton have better players. So I will favor Brighton in that tie. Brentford versus Liverpool. Brentford were impressive last time out, and Liverpool were unimpressive and also unlucky. And they have Europe. And so it will be interesting to see how they play. If they figure something out, maybe a lineup tweak, something, and then go back. Now, that means wait for Champions League to decide what to do with their players. If you're choosing Brentford players, I would encourage you to choose Igor Thiago, Damsgaard, and Shada. If you're choosing Liverpool players, start with Gakpo and maybe just finish with Gakpo. But if you're going to get more than that, I wouldn't encourage you to get the defense, even though this is a good game for a defensive performance, just because Thiago really is wasteful. But you could have Gakpo, Salah. Don't bring in Salah if you don't have him already. Most likely Isak will start and Szoboszlai. So Gakpo, Szoboszlai, Isak. But you see, those are not even convincing options. Really, it's only Gakpo. So just choose Gakpo and then just let's see if they can recover from this down period they're having. Bournemouth take on Nottingham Forest, and they have Sean Dyche at the helm, which means that they will be a more defensive team than they have been, especially under Ange. So it might be time to look at yourselves and your Murillos and all of the beautiful defenders that Nottingham Forest had who are performing. Now, the recent record doesn't matter because it's a new manager for both sides. But for Bournemouth, I would say El Krupi, Semenyo, and Senesi. On the Forest end, I would say just have a defender. I don't know how they will attack. And I'm really going to hope for manager bounce. So, like I said last week, I'll give the same advice this week. Please hold off on Forest players until we see what their identity is. Then now we have a bit of an explosive game. Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace had a very good draw with Bournemouth 3-3. And they'll be looking to build up on that. Arsenal beat Fulham 1-0 and will be looking to do better. They just won last night 4-0 with Gabriel having a night and a half and Gyokeres having another night. So it will be good to see if they can do something. Now, their recent record heavily favors Arsenal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 wins for Arsenal. But in their most recent game, it was a 2-2 draw. Now, when it comes to the Premier League, I think Trossard tends to be the guy who just pops up with the goals. So I would say now you have Trossard, Rice or Saka, and Gabriel. I think if you're getting an Arsenal defender, it's number 1 Gabriel, number 2 Calafiori, in that order. So Calafiori or Gabriel, or I put Gabriel slightly above him, and then Rice or Saka or Trossard. Those are the choices. For Crystal Palace, you have Mateta, Munoz, and Sarr. That's it. Aston Villa versus Manchester City. Manchester City have been good form. They won last night. Haaland scored again. Now, Aston Villa have been winning of late. They're on a great run and they beat Spurs over the weekend. So two good teams in good form will mean a good encounter, hopefully. Manchester City won 2-1 the last time they played. Then Aston Villa won the game before that 2-1. Manchester City won 4-1. Aston Villa won 1-0. Manchester City won 3-1. So you can see the win, the exchange winning. And if that pattern is to continue, if you believe in that pattern, then Aston Villa are going to win this game. Sounds wild, right? But if that pattern is true, it seems like each team adjusts for how they were beaten last time and win the next one. And if that is true, then Aston Villa are favourites for this game. I still think Haaland will score. And at this point, I would say Haaland, and then your choice of a Manchester City defender. I would say Reinders in midfield, but he's been a ghost of late. And so just honestly, and then there'll be a rotation, so Doku may not play. It might be Savinho. Savinho played well last night. Will he start over the... Pep Roulette is so frustrating, but Haaland is the only constant. So I would say Haaland and maybe just gamble with either O'Reilly or Vardiol. On the Villa side, I think Watkins will be back, and therefore Watkins, Rodgers, and Daniel Malden. I wouldn't get a Villa defender. Wolves take on Burnley. Wolves, I think the manager is on the verge of being sacked, and honestly, this would have been the right team for Sean Dyche to go to. Now, Wolves will play Burnley, and Wolves were beaten last time out by Sunderland, and they'll just be looking. Honestly, I think he's going to be sacked after this game, win or lose, but mostly if they lose. Now, Burnley were impressive against Leeds. Ugochukwu and Chaona scored a screamer, or one of my favorite words, a belter. And he's looking good. But the guy who was the most impressive was Kyle Walker. He had an assist. Now, Anthony was absolutely horrible in that game. Horrible. Anthony was he was so horrible. I've removed him from my team because if Leeds were better, he would have gifted them 2 goals. He was... Honestly, I'm surprised he remained on the pitch for as long as he did. He was awful. And I'm done with him. Now, Walker... Now, it becomes hard to recommend players because they're not looking as good as they were at the beginning. And Dubravka, I would say honestly at this point, just the playing Wolves just gamble on their defense. Get your Dubravka in, get your Walker, and maybe Florentino Luis. That's it. I mean, if you want your Lyle Fosters or your Anthony, fine, or Cullen, fine. But I'm not convinced in them moving forward, but I'm more convinced of them at the back. And Dubravka and Walker are looking good so far. On the Wolves end, honestly, I don't believe in them right now. But changes always can come at any point, and therefore Strand Larsen, Mr. Gomez, and Bueno. Those are the 3 players I'd recommend from Wolves, even though I highly encourage you not to get into Wolves. Everton take on Tottenham. Now, Tottenham are just Tottenham and are just completely unpredictable. In the last 5 games, let's even listen to these scores. They don't even make sense. Everton winners 3-2. Tottenham win 4-0. They draw 2-2. Tottenham win 2-1. They draw 1-1. So, what does that say? It shows 2 wins for Spurs, 2 draws, and 1 win for Everton. Now, Spurs, I'm unconvinced. I don't think Frank knows who his best lineup is. And the thing he wants to get, he is not yet getting from his players. I thought he had figured it out over game week 1 to 4, but then I think he rotated and I think he's lost the thing that he got. I think now, if you're going to choose players from this matchup, I believe Tell is going to start. Kudus and Betancourt scored in the last game. I'm not going to believe in their defense, so I'm going to say Tell, Kudus, Betancourt. If you have Richarlison, bench him. Save yourself from the disappointment. Get him out of your team. Now, on the Everton side, Grealish should be back. And DI should be back. I mean, not should be back. Should be something that does well. He's been good. He's been getting those defensive contributions. I've used my wild card and I had to remove him just to balance my squad, but I regret removing him. He has been a great servant for me so far. So I would say Ndiaye, Grealish, and not Beto, and maybe Alcaraz. Or if not, just get a defender. The one that you like. Be it Keane, Mikolenko, Bryan, Tarkowski, or Pickford. Just one of those. If you want DEFCON points, I would say Ndiaye and Tarkowski. Those are the best bets for DEFCON points from Everton. When it comes to captain choices, number 1 is Haaland. I know he's playing Aston Villa and I've told you already think they're going to lose, but Haaland has been ridiculous and I won't bet against him until there's evidence as to why, like there is against Salah. Second best captain choice? Honestly, if you go with Semenyo against Forest right now, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Or even El Krupi. Those two, there's potential for returns. The Arsenal Crystal Palace game has potential as well. I could see Rice, Gabriel, Saka as potential captains, or even Mateta or Munoz. And then in the Chelsea game, there's a possibility of maybe Pedro Neto being somebody good. Or maybe Reece James. I mean, we've got evidence that he can do something. And Newcastle at home, Voltemada would be great. Now, Man United at home against Brighton, Welbeck or Bumo. Liverpool versus Brentford, I don't know. But yeah, that's the order of captaincy that I would recommend. Now, looking at the FPL FDR, Arsenal have Crystal Palace, Burnley, Sunderland, Tottenham and Chelsea. Up until the derby, I think the fixtures are winnable completely and they're favourites. And I think there's a potential for 3 out of 4 clean sheets. Well, 3 out of 5. For Aston Villa, they have Man City, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Leeds and Wolves. So after the Liverpool game, or maybe after the Man City game, since Liverpool are in horrid form, it might be time to get into Aston Villa players. You could look into getting a Daniel Malen, Rodgers, or maybe even a defender after the Liverpool game. Or if you're cheeky, after the Man City game. Bournemouth have Forest, City, Villa, West Ham, Sunderland. Now they have 3, for me, good games here, and 1 tricky one and 1 where I'm sure they will lose. Which one? I don't know. Brentford have... before that. So for Bournemouth, it's not a bad idea to have their players if you already have them. Now, Brentford have Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Brighton, and Burnley. Now, given how Liverpool are playing, this might not be such a bad fixture. And after that, I would encourage you to get into Igor Thiago and Adamsgaard. Brighton have Man United, Leeds, Crystal Palace, Brentford, and Nottingham Forest. I wish I could believe in Brighton's ability to keep a clean sheet, but I can't. But I believe all 5 of these games are winnable games for Brighton. Burnley have Wolves, Arsenal, West Ham, Chelsea, and Brentford. Honestly, apart from Arsenal and Chelsea, the other games are completely winnable. Chelsea have Sunderland, Tottenham, Wolves, Burnley, and Arsenal. And honestly, outside Arsenal, winnable fixtures. It's just a matter of choosing the right player. And remember, Ajimpong is 3.9. So there's potential for returns there. Crystal Palace have Arsenal, Brentford, Brighton, Wolves, and Man United. After the Arsenal game, these are good fixtures, and having a Mateta, especially a Munoz, wouldn't be a bad idea. And maybe even Sarr, tripling up might not be such a bad idea. Everton have Tottenham, Sunderland, Fulham, Man United, and Newcastle. Now, I think they can definitely beat Sunderland and Fulham. Tottenham, anything can happen. Man United and anything can happen. Man United and Spurs for me against Everton is the same. Everton can win, Everton can lose. I believe they'll be beaten by Newcastle. Fulham have Newcastle, Wolves, Everton, Sunderland, and Tottenham. So now that Jimenez is back and they have a target man, I believe their attack will flow better than it has been over the recent few weeks when they had both players out. Now, honestly, after the Newcastle game, there's potential for for Fulham to really do something. So keep your eye out. Fulham could become an interesting team to have. Leeds were beaten by Burnley, which I thought was a game they could have won. Then they have West Ham, Brighton, Forest, Aston Villa, and Man City. I think only West Ham and Forest are the winnable games here for them, and they'll do well to win those 2 games. After that, I don't think they should beat any of the other teams. Liverpool have Brentford, Aston Villa, Man City, Forest, and West Ham. Honestly, before I used to think that these would be easy games for them outside Man City, but now I can see them being beaten by Villa and Manchester City. These are still kind fixtures for them. You would do well to have their players. Man City have Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Leeds. And honestly, before I thought Liverpool was the toughest fixture for them and out of this 5, but now I think it's either going to be this Aston Villa game or the Newcastle game. So I don't know. Outside Haaland, maybe don't invest too much in them because I don't believe that they will be keeping clean sheets. Man United have Brighton, Forest, Spurs, Everton, and Crystal Palace. This is a good spell after such a difficult spell of fixtures. And this is when they should start making headway. Outside Brighton and Spurs, I think they should be able to win against Everton, against Forest, and maybe Crystal Palace will be the big challenge. Newcastle have Fulham, West Ham, Brentford, Man City, and Everton. After Fulham, I think they can beat Fulham at home, and then West Ham away, and possibly even with a clean sheet on both accounts. I think Brentford will be tricky. Man City will be definitely tough, and then Everton will be a bit tricky. Just because Newcastle are a bit inconsistent. Nottingham Forest have Bournemouth, Man United, Leeds, Liverpool, and Brighton. We don't know what Sean Dyche will do. Let's see what he does before we can determine who they are. Spurs have Everton, Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal, and Fulham. Oh, goodness. They have a tough set of fixtures coming up. This is probably the right time to get out of Spurs players. Sunderland have Chelsea, Everton, Arsenal, Fulham, and Bournemouth. Sunderland are a good team. They're just a good team. They will win the game you don't expect and lose the game you don't expect. I think they're going to be like Luton, and they will give the fight of their lives. So always expect competition from Sunderland. West Ham have Leeds, Newcastle, Burnley, Bournemouth, and Liverpool. Now, if Nuno Espirito Santo can get his house in order, he should beat Leeds and Burnley, be competitive with Newcastle and Bournemouth, and probably lose to Liverpool. But with Liverpool's form, they could probably beat them at that point. It's just a matter of who shows up and in what way. Wolves have Burnley, Fulham, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa. So literally, if he does not defeat Burnley, he'll be gone by Fulham. And if he's not gone by Fulham, he'll be gone after Fulham. That is my sack prediction. Fulham, he'll be sacked by Fulham. That is my prediction. That's how low I am on Pereira right now and Wolves. And that is the episode for this week. Remember, Champions League and Europe fixtures are going on. Hold on if you're getting players from those teams. And also remember, the Gameweek starts on Friday. Outside that, I hope you're well. Have a great remainder of your week. Bye.